do this for the trend, I don't follow them. Altercations with the law had a lot of them. People speaking for the people, I'm proud of them. Stick together, we can get it up out of them. I can't lie like I don't rap about killing and dope, but I'm telling my youngest to vote. I did what I did cause I didn't have no choice and no hope. I was forced to just jump in and go. This bullshit is all that we know, but it's time for a change. Got time to be serious, no time for no game. Ain't taking no more, let us go for them chains. God bless they soul, every one of them names. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear. They training officers to killers and shooting protesters with these double bullets. They regular people, I know that they feel us. These scars too deep, they heal us. What happened to COVID? Nobody remember it, that makes sense. I'm just here to vent. It happened to one of your people, it's different. We get it, the system is wicked, just learn how to pick it. Knowledge is power, I swear I'm a witness. I know that I'm gifted, I won't go too deep cause I'm scared they'll get me. Ain't scared to admit it, something I can't mention. It's people who can, but here's the chance. I won't take a stand, but I'll take a stand for what I believe. Must not be breathing the air that I breathe. You know that the way that I bleed, you can breathe. I never been a fan of police, but my neighborhood know I try to keep peace, so it's only right that I get in the streets. March for a reason, not just on GP. How people die for us to be free. What do you mean? This was a dream. Now we got the power that we need to have. They don't want us with it, and that's why they mad. Yeah, it's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. Can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. Can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God.
Wow.
Even if I told you, still wouldn't understand what happened. Rather be myself and look at me, don't matter. Or rock star, just trying to keep it kosher. Trying to keep my eyes on my own paper like my teachers told me. Soon as niggas think it's over, poof, number one on the charts. I'm never vicariously, oh there they go. Biasly pushing negative narratives, I'm ready though. Cops wanna pull me over and embarrass me. Abusing power, you never knew me, thought I was arrogant. As a juvenile, police pull their guns like they scared of me. And we used to howl. This treat us like that's the scary thing. Want anything we good at and we cherish it. Now we all fed up and news coming back for everything. Rock stars, just watch the news, they burning cop cars. Kill another nuke, break the law and call us outlaws. What happened? Want us to keep it peaceful. Should've seen them hate, I bought that Lamborghini. Throw up my police can't catch me this up. Brand new Lamborghini, a cop car. Pull on my hip like I'm a cop. Ever met a real rock star? This ain't no good talk, this. Told me to promise you gon' squeeze me. Better let me go the day you need me. Put me on that get the bus. And if I ain't enough, go get the chop. It's safe to say I earned it, ain't a new, gave me nothing. I'm ready to hop out on the new, get the bus. So you heard me say you play, you later, make me push the button. Full of pain, dropped enough tears to fill up a fuck. I bought a chopper, I got a big drop, hold on, honey, going for nothing. Ready to air it out on honey, cause I can see I'm running. Just talking to my mom, she hit me on FaceTime just to check up on me and my brother. Really the baby, she know that the youngest son was always guaranteed to get the money. Okay, let's go. She know that the baby boy was always guaranteed to get the loot. She know what I do, she know if I run from her, I'll pull it out, shoot. PTSD, I'm always waking up a cold sweats like I got the flu. My daughter the G, she started killing me in front of her before the age of 2. And I kill her too. If I let a man do something to you, as long as you know that don't let nobody tell you different than they love you. Let's go. Brand new Lamborghini, a cop car. Pull on my hip like I'm a cop. Ever met a real rock star? This ain't no good talk, this. Told me to promise you gon' squeeze me. Better let me go the day you need me. Put me on that and get the bus. Yeah, and if I ain't enough, go get your chop. Keep up when I ride in the Suburban. Ain't had a young swerving. I got the mop, watch me wash them like detergent. And I'm ballin', that's why it's diamonds on my jersey. Slide them outside and flip the block back, yeah, yeah. My junior popped them and left them lopsided, yeah, yeah. We spin his block, got the rebound in his robbery. For me one time, you can't cross me again. 1,200 horsepower, I get lost in the wind. If you talking on the yard, the pin dogs will take his chin. Maybach SUV for my refugees. 5 blocks in the hood, put money in the streets. I was solo when the ops caught me at the gas station. Had it on me 30,000, thought it was my last day. But they ain't even want no smoke. If I had to choose it, murder what she want. Let's go. Brand new Lamborghini, the car my car. Pull on my hip like I'm a cop. Have you ever met a real new rock star? This ain't no guitar, this is. Told me to promise you gon' squeeze me. You better let me go the day you need me. She put me on that, get the bus. And if I ain't enough, go get the chop. Ain't this what they've been waiting for? You ready?
You ready?
I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like this. In a matter of time I spent on some locked up in the back of the paddy wagon, cuffs locked on wrist. See my dreams unfold, nightmares come true. It was time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it with a clear eye view. Got shorty, she try and bless me like I said I chew, like a sneeze. Please for them trick squeeze, I'm getting cream. Never let them get in between of what we started. Lord, but I'm lying hearted. They love me when I was stuck and they hated when I departed. I go and get it regardless. Draw it like I'm an artist. I'm crawling with straight to walking with foreigns in my garages are foreign. Menage, sucking and swallowing anything for $1. They tell me get him, I got him. I did it without an album. I did it with Mariah. Love, I'm on fire. Icy as a hockey ring, Philly, fly it. When I bought the Rolls Royce, they thought it was lease. Then I bought that new Ferrari, hey, the rest in peace. Hey, the rest in peace to the parking lot. Phantom so big, can't even fit in the parking spot. You ain't talking about my, what you talking about? Gangsta moving silent, and I don't talk a lot. I don't say a word. Was on my grind and now I got what I deserve. Hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? When I would've asked them all, y'all thought it was ready? Flexing on it, to my papa on the spinach. Double M, yeah, that's my team. I say the captain, I'm lieutenant. I'm the top cannon, man, casting grind like I'm broke. The Lambo, my new, she ride like my ghost. I'm riding around my city with my hand on my toes. Cause they want me dead, and I gotta make it back up. Cause my mama need that pill money, my son needs some milk. They try to take my life, they around get killed. Fuck around, you fuck around, you fuck around, get soft. Cause they feel it, top all women don't fuck around, no joke. All I know is money. When it come to me, I got help. Swollen, I got throwing bees. I done did the DOA, I done did the KODs. Every time I'm in there, I get the throwing 30 G's. But now I'm hanging out that drop head, I'm riding down no collar. They let me earn back home, that young, be wildin'. We young, we mobbin', like Batman or with Robbie. Miss two-door Maybach with my seat all reclining. I'm like, real, what up?
What up?
Real, what up? If you ain't about that murder game, then shut up. If you dip me in your ass, I get your pussy stuck up. When you touch down in my hood, no, that tour life ain't good. Catch me dead at MIA. Put my life on my feet like that.
Hey, how is everybody? Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear. Everything's good.
Right. All right. Welcome to the Good Trouble Town Hall by Benjamin Straker, hosted by Benjamin Straker, in conjunction with the Solicitor General's office and the Clayton County Public Schools. I think I'll get started with we have a very hefty schedule here, so let's get through some of the acknowledgments and jump right into it. First and foremost, I want to thank the Clayton County Public Schools for allowing us to put on this event. Dr. Morcease Beasley and Chairwoman Jessie Goree, and the entire school board. I want to thank all of the principals, all of the assistant principals, all of the teachers, and all of you students that have decided to join us today. I want to also acknowledge the Solicitor General, Mr. Charles Brooks, that is going to be on our panel today. I also want to thank the Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Ralph Simpson, who's going to be on the panel today. And we couldn't have gotten this hyped up without DJ Surges from V103. I also want to thank the Social Studies Coordinator, Regina Wallace, and Dr. Carter for putting this event all together. Without those two, we're not here right now. All right, we are now ready to jump into what this event is going to be about today. First and foremost, this is going to be a very fun event because we're going to put some fun in there as we're discussing serious issues. We're going to have a trivia contest today, and we're also going to have an art contest. Let me tell you how the trivia contest will work, and that will start us off with our discussion. The trivia contest will make money for you guys. We're actually giving away $25 for 4 questions throughout the broadcast today. $25 for people who can get the answer right to our trivia questions. 4 of them today, $25. Dr. Carter will be reaching out to you. You'll be able to comment and give us the correct answers to the questions. And if you get those answers correct in the comments and you're acknowledged as the first person that gets it correct, you will get Cash App $25. Boy, I wish I was in your shoes today. Let's start off with our first tribute for the day before we get into the discussion, before we introduce you to the panel. We're going to start you off so that we can get these comments going. Here goes the first trivia question of the day before we get started. Are you listening? Are you ready? Are your fingers ready to go in answering this question? A 2012 Washington Post headline quoted President Obama as saying, "If I had a son, he looked like Trayvon," in reference to the Trayvon Martin, an unarmed Black teenager who was fatally shot and whose death sparked national conversation and massive protests about race and racial profiling. What article of clothing was Martin wearing at the time of his death, which was also worn by protesters in New York City during the Million This March? All right, so get that answer up and we're ready to go. All right, social justice is the conversation for today. Solicitor Charles Brooks is on the panel. Dr. Ralph Sampson is on the panel, and they'll be answering some of the questions. Let me tell you, panel, before you get started with introducing yourself. Yesterday, we discussed some of the questions that I put together. Well, we're scrapping that because the students from all of our high schools have submitted questions, and we're going to take their questions. This is about them. This is not about us. Today is about them, and we're going to answer their questions when it comes to social justice. So, without further ado, I'll start with the Solicitor General, Charles Brooks. I'll let him introduce himself, let him tell you where he comes from, and a little bit about social justice, and then I'll move on to our next panelist. Solicitor Brooks, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Charles Brooks. I'm Solicitor General of State Court of Clayton County. I am from Clayton County. Went to Forest Park High School, Babb Middle School, and Morrow Elementary. So I know Clayton County very well. Not only did I go to Clayton County, I also taught in Clayton County. I had a great opportunity to teach at Forest Park High School for several years in the Social Studies Department. In the room with me, I have my Chief Assistant, Audrey Lewis, who hails from Augusta and has been with our office for several years now. And basically, my path from high school to where I sit now Actually, I never thought that I would be in this office because my goal was to be a teacher. I was going to be teaching, and I was quite comfortable teaching. But at the time that I was teaching at Forest Park High School, we had a lot of challenges at the time. And so we had a number of different principals that inspired me to go to the criminal justice system because I was losing too many of my students to the criminal justice system. At the time that I was teaching, I had a student that was killed, had another student who was pistol whooped, another student who got caught up in the criminal justice system in another different way. And so in order to impact or put a dent in the school to prison pipeline, I decided that I'd go to law school. And so that's what I did. And here I am now as the Solicitor General of State Court of Clayton County.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. Now, Dr. Ralph Simpson, who works with us at the Clayton County Public School System. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Dr. Simpson, and what you do with the schools.
Not a whole lot to tell other than the fact that I'm just a bona fide, certified, validated C average student from my whole K-12, undergrad, and graduate experience. But I had a whole lot of effort. And it's that effort that got me to where I am right now. Born and raised in the city of Atlanta, where I matriculated through high school and went to West Georgia and majored in criminal justice, ironically, solicitor. But it's interesting that the life-altering experience that you shared was the same or similar life-altering experience that I had. I was working in maximum security and then also finished up working in the jail system. So I asked myself a question one day and said, either you're going to become a part of the problem or a part of the solution. I knew that the solution would not be at the back door of the jail because it was actually too late. So I decided to go from the back door of the jailhouse to the front door of the schoolhouse. And that began my journey into education. And honestly, when I started teaching, I thought that I'd be a classroom teacher for 30 years. Honestly, I had no doubt whatsoever I'd be a deputy superintendent. But my goal, obviously, then was to make certain that I could eradicate this whole school to prison pipeline. That was my goal when I went in. And so after teaching for 4 years, I had that lean on me, Joe Clark fever, where I felt like I could lead in a larger capacity and reach a larger capacity of students, and ended up entering into leadership and became an assistant principal, regional superintendent, and now deputy superintendent. So, Mr. Straker, part of my role, and if just being light about it or less about it, is I supervise and manage the day-to-day operations of all of the schools, every school in the district, and monitoring continuous improvement and from a leadership perspective. And so that's what I do. That's my responsibility. But any and everything that I do, all of my decisions are deeply rooted in children first. And I consider myself a role that I support those who support teachers and or support children. And so that's primarily what I do in a nutshell.
Fantastic. I got one more panelist here. One more. Our DJ. We know we can't forget our DJ. And ironically, our DJ is a Atlanta native, also coming straight out of Morrow High School. Let him introduce himself and say a bit about himself.
Hey, how y'all doing? Good afternoon. I'm DJ Sturgis, radio personality here at B103, Clayton County native, Clayton County resident, Morrow Middle School, Morrow High School. Shout out to all the Morrow students in here. Basically, I was just that kid that just believed in himself from day one and just went on and did it. I went to Fort Valley State University and graduated from Clayton State, and just been pushing for my dreams ever since, you know what I'm saying? And just really just tried to be the person to lead by example for my community, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these kids, they hear about Rex Road in the rap songs, you know what I'm saying? From Derez Deshawn to Southside 808 Mafia and everything. Like they hear about it, but like, I'm still there, you know what I'm saying? Like I still ride by, you know what I'm saying, Rex Road. So I really just try, really just kill it on the radio on P Street, then, still go back to the South Side, and all over Clayton County, really. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks for representing Clayton County. Now let's talk about some social justice here.
Yeah.
Social justice. Let's look at those two words there before we start off with Solicitor Brooks. Social justice is in those words there. Social, which means community, which means the people that you're around. Justice, which means fair, equal, and equity. Those are the three things that I want you to keep that in mind as we're discussing social justice today, because social justice means being fair, equal, and equitable when it comes to a community. Solicitor Brooks, can you give us your definition and perspective on social justice?
I think what you just said was spot on. It's when you're having a conversation about social justice, you're really having a conversation about equity and equality. And so when you talk about equity, you need to understand the difference between equity and equality. One, I give you the perfect example, and I think some people probably have seen this picture. You got three different kids who are trying to look over a fence. Okay, one kid is 3 foot high, one kid is 4 foot high, one kid is 5 foot high. The objective is to look over the fence, right? Equality is giving each one of those kids a box that's 1 foot high. But if you give the kid with that's 3 feet high and a 1 foot tall box, they still might not be able to look over the fence. That's equality. Equity means that you're gonna give the kid the appropriate amount of resources so that they have the opportunity to look over the fence and see what's over the fence. So it might be a 3 foot tall fence or box. It might be a 2 foot tall box, depending on what each individual needs. So when you talk about social justice, you're talking about equity and access and equity and opportunity and all things that will make a person a productive citizen in society.
Good deal. Thank you very much. Dr. Simpson, your take on social justice?
Yeah, not much I can add to it, but I'm going to throw in a little access and participation with that. I think that many opportunities that are afforded us, or the opportunities that we're denied, are based on simply access and participation. And so when we talk about social justice, and the theme of this meeting being good trouble, and that's just what John Lewis did. I mean, you heard it in his story when he talked about the stories, the conversation that he had with his parents about if you got, it's almost like if you see a good fight, get in it. And so being a part of it and participating instead of just talking about it. I've often said, don't talk about it, be about it. You got to become engaged and involved, but you become engaged and involved oftentimes when it's something that you feel and it hits you. If it's something that made you feel a certain kind of way. It's just like I mentioned earlier in my introduction about the life-altering experiences. I got tired of seeing brothers that look like me come to the back door to jail. And as much as I talked about it, as much as we hear the disproportionate number of African-American males in our jails and prisons, okay, so then you have a choice. What is it and what role are you going to play and do about it? Being a part of the problem or a part of the solution? So instead of talking about it, I said, okay, well, I'm going to be about it. And so social justice to me meant then participation and me getting engaged and me getting involved. So I take it personal. It's personal to me. And this is my personal responsibility.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. I got my first question from one of the students. Okay. This is a good one. I'm going to start with you, Solicitor Brooks. And I'm going to add something to this question because I want to tie it into, how this event came about in the first place. Here goes the question, and it's a very good question. This question is from Hannah Johnson from North Clayton High School. Okay. Hannah Johnson, North Clayton High School. Does Black Lives Matter only deal with crimes? Solicitor, speak on that. And while you're speaking on that, I want you to tie it into why you approached me in the first place and asked me to put on this event.
Okay, so the question is, does Black Lives Matter only deal with crimes?
Correct.
My answer is no. Black Lives Matter as it relates to all aspects of society. And so if the conversation is a conversation about access and opportunity, Black Lives Matter as it relates to economic opportunity. That means getting scholarships. That means getting loans. That means getting grants. That means our lives matter the same way as everybody else's lives matter as it relates to getting these opportunities and getting access. As it relates to the criminal justice system, Black Lives Matter, that means basically that the application of law is equitable. And what I mean by equitable is that it's being applied in the right way in every population. For example, in some cases, and let me say this, I love my job as Solicitor General because as Solicitor General, I have opportunities to show and extend grace. And grace, as you guys may know, is not getting what you may deserve. And so in this job, I have the opportunity to show something that's called prosecutorial discretion. In some cases might need to be prosecuted. In other cases, I might need to find an alternative resolution.
How do you make that determination on whether you go one alternative or the other?
It depends on the facts of the case and it depends on the individual. Each one of these cases, and I say cases, and a case is a number, but it's also a person, and that person has family, and that person is a member of this community. And so if I'm trying to make an impact on my community, I could apply equality and give everybody the same thing across the board, right? Okay, so speeding ticket, everybody gets $100 fine across the board, okay? But let's say it's a young driver. Maybe this young driver needs something more. Maybe this young driver, instead of doing $100 fine, maybe this young driver needs a defensive driving course. See, that's equity, and maybe let's go even further. Maybe it's not necessarily a defensive driving course that comes as a result of a sentence, but maybe I direct them to do a defensive driving course. And if you do this defensive driving course, as a result, I'll dismiss the case.
Gotcha. Solicitor General, are you a DA or what? I don't know what a Solicitor General does.
So most people don't. Because in media perceptions, the only prosecutor that exists is the district attorney.
Right.
But in a lot of instances, most people that have any encounter with the criminal justice system is going to be dealing with a solicitor, because solicitors deal with a larger cross section of the law. You're talking about traffic, anything that's a traffic offense, you're going to be dealing with a solicitor. Marijuana offenses, that's a solicitor. Shoplifting, that's a solicitor. Domestic violence, that's a solicitor. So anything that would be considered a misdemeanor offense, and a misdemeanor offense is anything that you can get up to 12 months of jail or $1,000 fine.
Gotcha. So is it correct for me to think that a Solicitor General deals with misdemeanor crimes, a DA deals with felonies?
Absolutely. And a felony is anything where the minimum is 1 year and the maximum is death. Gotcha.
Fantastic. I got another question here. The next question, and this is for you, Dr. Simpson. Do you believe that youth, first of all, it's Alina Jones from Mount Zion High School. Alina Jones from Mount Zion High School. Do you believe that youth should have a bigger influence in what is being said regarding social justice issues?
Wow. Thank you for the question, Alina. And I would have to say yes, but I'm going to go back to a point that I made earlier. When things have impacted and affected you personally, that typically drives and fuels your engagement. And before we start reaching out and becoming a part of national movements, I would encourage everyone, whether they be children or adults, to take part and get involved and participate in your local movements. And for Aaliyah, let's use as an example you being a student at Mount Zion High School. What matters to you at Mount Zion High School? What matters are taking place in your school that you know on any given day might disrupt, distract, or disturb you from getting a quality education? What is it that might interfere or cause for you to not have the best opportunity for teaching and learning? And so when we say children or youth getting involved in social justice, again, let's take it personal. What role can you play? It's almost like get in where you fit in. What role can you play? I oftentimes use the example of what happened a few years ago in Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida with the school shooting. And we saw youth from all over the country memorializing those students, but taking action. Those students from Stoneman Douglas, along with other students in a caravan from Florida all the way to the Capitol, to stand on the steps of the Capitol and hold a rally about what they wanted to do to reduce gun violence and restrict gun laws. That youth participation, that youth voice, that energy, that enthusiasm, it is what we are and it was what we are excited to see you all standing for something that's going to be meaningful and impactful and having a certainly a major impact and effect on your lives as adults. You don't have to wait for an adult or the adults to get this done or to become engaged and participate. This is something that you can do and start up right here in your own school community. And I implore you all, I encourage you as a student and students in your school to look around at the things in your school and your community, and let's fix those first. Let's look at social justice in our own front door, in our own backyard. And then we can begin to elevate ourselves to the county and to the state and then national, instead of just taking that big leap out there
Right.
and becoming involved on the national front. Let's do it in our own backyard.
That's a great response there, Dr. Simpson. Do you recall when we had lost the funding, or were we were being threatened to lose the funding from Delta Airline?
Absolutely.
And our superintendent actually organized our kids to go down to Delta to actually protest. Can you talk about that a little bit more and share with the kids how impactful that was?
Well, when we decided on that Saturday at that town hall meeting that we need to take a position and we needed to get into good trouble. We wanted to go, and we took all the leaders to the state capitol, all of the principals, and we stood in unison about our position that as much as we appreciate Delta Airlines and as much as we love Delta Airlines, that we felt that Delta has a responsibility and should have a responsibility to not take away from the children that are our future. And so as a part of the social justice and social action and the activity, it couldn't be better for having our students engaged, and we put them on buses. But before we put them on buses, and this is all through the engagement and involvement of our social studies coordinator, our superstar, all-star Regina Wallace, we wanted to make sure that we educated our students first. We don't want to just put them on buses and we're 700 deep out in front of the Delta headquarters, and we're out there with just to be a crowd of rebel rousers or rioting. No, we were protesting, and there's a distinct difference between the two. But we want to make sure we educated and informed our students of why we were going. And they were creative once they had a better understanding and when educated about what this meant to us in the signs that they created. And so when we went out there, they knew exactly why we were there. That may have been the first time for some of those that might have experienced protest. It may not have been, but the experience alone, for them fighting for something and standing for something that was meaningful to them and that was going to have an impact on the children before and after them, was tremendous and an incredible experience for our students. So the takeaway is, despite whether they've graduated in the class of 2019 or 2020, that laid a foundation for those students to begin their participation and their onboarding of what protesting and standing for something is all about.
Gotcha. Very good. All right. First of all, I have a question for the solicitor, but before we do that, I have to announce the winner to the first trivia question. And that person is Kyla Gaines, and she's from Morrow High School. See, now, DJ Surges is feeling that. Morrow High School, Kayla Gaines is the winner to the first trivia question. Remember, the trivia questions are only for students. So I only want students to answer the trivia questions. All right. So listen, I have a question for you. Here's my question to you, and this has always stumped me, even as an adult. I get into a little bit of trouble. I'm driving with no insurance. My license is suspended. I get pulled over by the police officers. They give me a ticket that I have to come to court. Set me up for what you expect my behavior to be when I come to your court so that I can get some type of mercy.
Okay. So that is a very interesting question. Is that a student question?
that's one of the students. One of the students said it, but I don't have the name here.
That's a good question. So in what I often see in cases is people try to make the case with the police officer on the side of the road. And that's the wrong time or wrong venue to try to negotiate the terms of what the outcome is going to be. And so, let me say this: the starting point is if you get pulled over with a law enforcement officer, follow the directions of the officer. Okay, if the officer issues a citation, take the citation and then fight the battle in court or have the conversation, the discussion in court. And when you come to court, you always come to court with the best presentation. And so when you come to court, you want to dress in your best, whatever that best may be, and you want to speak in your best, and you want to be polite and show respect to the court and to the people in the court. Because what you'll find is that not only is the officer a person that was just doing his job, the people in the court are people that's just doing their job, and nobody's out there to get you. So if it's a case of a speeding ticket, okay, let's say that you're a person that have never received a ticket before in your life. And let's say that you're a person that's been driving for several years, let's say 20 years, okay? That's something that's attractive to a prosecutor to say, look, I've never received a ticket before. I don't know if this is the right way to ask this, but essentially, I'm asking for some lenience in the resolution of this case. And the prosecutor received that better than, man, the officer just trying to railroad out here just messing with us. That's a different conversation,
right?
Different approach, and it's all about approach. Same way you want to be talked to with respect. The officer, the prosecutor, the judge, everybody just wants a degree, a moniker of respect in how you approach them, how you talk to them.
Good deal. Thank you very much for that. Okay, we're up to our second trivia question here. And this one stems from Dr. Simpson's description of getting involved with school advocating. On February 14th, 2018, a gunman opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, killing 17 people and injuring 17 others. Following the shooting, Parkland student survivors, angered and frustrated, intensified towards government action. The high school students organized and protest. What was the name of the two hashtags that sparked the movement promoting gun control? What were the hashtags? There were two hashtags that the students in Parkland used in order to spark a movement. All right? Dr. Simpson, this next question is for you. This question is from Alcenio Diallo from Elite Scholars. Are there any social justice movements going on right now?
That's without being said. I mean, all over the place. Gosh, I mean, kind of pick and choose. I mean, where do you want to go? I think that a lot have. Well, let's from the standpoint of social justice, it is typically derived from things that are happening in our society. Whether someone has felt as though their rights have been violated, they're not. They've not been treated fairly or just. They don't have the access, or they've not been allowed to participate. So that spurns social justice and causes for one or many or others to become involved. But yes, there are many platforms out there that individuals are taking it upon themselves to create their own movement. This is completely different from the 60s, and I was not around in the 60s to be a part of a movement. But as I look back on the movements then and the movements now, while there were fewer and it appeared to be more of a unified front with many people supporting the one or two movements that were out there, there's so many others out there's so many movements or social justice movements that are taking place in our society right now. And I'm not saying that we're fragmented or we're divided as a result of it, but there are many out there that speaks to your own individual concerns. And so I know I've said this before, that it is people are identifying with the movement based upon how they feel personally or how it's impacted them in their own personal lives or people that are closest to them. So there are, you can't even, as we go through this process of this forum, there are probably social justice movements beginning at its introductory phases. So
would you consider the current voting that we're doing now a social justice movement?
I would, absolutely. I would. Just the whole notion of encouraging and inspiring and educating people on the importance of voting, to exercise that right. The grassroots efforts and the community service that's being expended for those that might have some challenges in getting to the polls. I mean, Brother Straker, solicitor, in our era, we knew that an election was coming and we got there. We got there on our own accord, and there just weren't as many efforts out there in transporting people to the poll and those types of things. We understood the importance of it, and so while maybe we took it for granted and got a little lazy, and now we just got to ramp those efforts back up, and you see that all across the world. And so yes, it is. It's certainly a movement. I agree.
Good deal. All right, so listen, I got a hard one here for you. I'm about to hit you. This one is from Aaron Harris from Lovejoy High School. Aaron Harris. How can we get the justice system to comply with the Eighth Amendment? Now, remember, with the Eighth Amendment, we're talking about the fines, the types of punishments. How do we, you alluded to it earlier when a young person gets pulled over and there may be $100 fine. You may find an alternative. But do you think that it's an issue with the justice system overall? What is your opinion about the Eighth Amendment?
So if I'm correct, Eighth Amendment is cruel and unusual punishment. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I don't think it's an issue overall. I think what you find is in different places,
right,
across America, there are issues. Say, for example, I'll use Clayton County as an example. Clayton County is a place where the majority population is minority. You come to Clayton County courts, the court personnel are the majority is minority, and so how we might view a case from the lens of our experience and from where we live and how we were raised might be different from, say, for example, somewhere in South Georgia or somewhere in North Georgia. And so it's very, very, very fragmented in how we approach crime and how we approach responses to crime. There is no universal way. Because what's good for Clayton County might not be good for, say, for example, a South Georgia county, Brooks County in South Georgia. What's good for Clayton County might not be good for what's happening in White County in North Georgia.
Good deal.
If the question is, how to get the criminal justice system to comply with the Eighth Amendment, I think it's not necessarily the criminal justice system, but it's the individuals in the criminal justice system. And so the prosecutors, if they take a whole person or a global view at the crime itself and the individual that committed the crime, the response to it may be different than say, for example, a universal response.
Gotcha.
If a person commits a burglary and my uniform response is 20 years in jail, that might not be appropriate.
Gotcha.
Mr. Straker.
Looking at the individual and I'm looking at the reason behind the burglary, I might respond with a sentence recommendation that's more appropriate.
Good deal. Good deal. Dr. Simpson?
Yeah, it is so interesting how that cruel and unusual punishment in the criminal justice system somewhat mirrors how we do discipline in the school system.
Correct.
It is something that we have to be very, very careful of, because if not, when we talk about this school to prison pipeline, suspending a child for 5 to 10 days for rude and disrespectful behavior, which is so subjective in nature. What might be rude to me in my first period class might not be rude to you in your second period class. Right. And so we have to be extremely careful and cognizant of the fact that, we can't mirror and be excessive in our consequences with students. That's why we've introduced restorative justice and restorative practices, because we want to make sure that we are very informed and we're implementing a second chance attitude. Listen, everybody wants a second chance. It's just like what the solicitor said earlier. You get pulled over by the police for speeding, you want a second chance. And so as educators, and certainly those that are in the positions of authority and assistant principal, then they have to believe in an approach that when a student has displayed inappropriate behavior, that you just don't give the max. Discipline is progressive, but you don't just issue consequences based off of a manual. You can't just say, oh, well, you committed this offense, therefore you get 5 or 10 days out of school suspension. No, there are consequences. I mean, there's a conversation before consequences. And so we have to make sure that we are grace. I think I heard the solicitor say that earlier. We have to operate with grace and leniency and conversation and communication before we jump the consequences.
Good point. Excellent point, Dr. Simpson. All right, I have a winner to the second trivia question. That was Dehani Rhodes from Stillwell High School. Congratulations, and your $25 is on the way. All right, question. Let's see. I have another one here. Okay. This one is from Lauren Lowe, and this is for the solicitor from Lovejoy High School. What does power have to do with fairness and justice?
Good question.
Wow.
Lauren Lowe from Lovejoy High School.
Lauren Lowe, that is an awesome question.
It is.
Does power have to do, can you restate the question one more time for me?
What does power have to do with fairness and justice?
So I answer this in a very global way, but the state, when the state is prosecuting a case, or the United States is prosecuting a case, or the state of Georgia is prosecuting a case, there comes a great degree of power, and it can be intimidating to know that this is the state of Georgia versus whomever. So in applying the powers that are given to the state, it requires a great degree of restraint, and that's where fairness and justice comes in there. Because just because I, as a prosecutor, can do something does not mean I, as a prosecutor, should do something.
Good deal.
My response earlier, as related to grace, in this role as solicitor, I'm given every day an opportunity to extend somebody grace. And that's an example of restraint of power. Because whereas I could, in some cases, if somebody's convicted, make a recommendation that might be the maximum. What's fair and what's just may not be the maximum, even though I can make that recommendation.
Good deal.
Fairness and justice is all about restraint and being wise and looking at what's good for the individual and what's good for the community.
Good.
That's a great question,
That
Lauren.
always reminds me of that Spider-Man movie when he makes that statement that says, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
So the further up we go, the more grace we have to have on individuals. Which leads me to another question, solicitor, that I wanted to ask you. Let's put this out here right here. You're a Black man and you're from Clayton County. When you have to make decisions on dealing with justice in our county, how do you feel as a Black man and as a person that came directly out of Clayton County?
So there's a couple of different ways to answer that. The first way that I'll respond is when you're talking about crime or you're talking about criminality, from a prosecutor's standpoint, the question is, did you do it? Okay, and then this after crossing that threshold, if the answer is yes, then comes the exercise of power or the restraint of the full exercise of power. If you did it, what's the right consequence of it? As a Black person, that analysis doesn't really change. The question for me is, did you do it?
Correct.
Right response to that. And obviously my response is colored by my experience.
Gotcha.
and by where I'm from. I'm from Clayton County. This is the same things that people have complained about in the criminal justice system. I've experienced it myself.
Right.
So having that experience, it will shape how I respond to things.
Fantastic. Dr. Simpson, shout out to my daughter from Louisiana University, Zuri Straker. She gave me a question. I'm throwing her question in there, even though she's not a Clayton County student.
That's right.
She said in her question, how do we teach people about social justice? Because it seems as though if you ask the average person what it is, most people don't know. So how are we doing that in our school system? Yeah. I know this is a Regina Wallace question, but I'll let you represent her right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure Regina is on, and she could probably elaborate. But so you know that we are an SEL district, social emotional learning district. One of the 5 competencies for SEL is social awareness, and we have taken that competency as we have utilized all 5 of them, but social awareness being a part of it lays the platform for us to be able to have those very difficult, sensitive, and challenging conversations. And so as we have implemented SEL throughout the district, what could not be a better time than now with this year, not only as we are dealing with multiple pandemics, but to have a platform to equip teachers with the confidence to be able to have and forge these conversations. One thing about social awareness that I know we have to be careful about is that as a person, I might feel a different way and might have a different perspective about what may be going on as it relates to Black Lives Matter. Just because I feel that way about it, a student or students in my classroom might have a totally different interpretation. I have to be respectful as the teacher, as the leader, to guide that conversation and allow and create the environment and the climate for the students to feel very, very comfortable in having those authentic, transparent, and courageous conversations. And that's what the platform of SEL and the competency about social awareness is all about. And so in teaching social justice, it's not just about, and I use this as an example, it's just not about teaching Black Lives Matter. When you become informed and when you become educated, it provides you an opportunity to be able to venture down the road in which you want to travel. And that's what we want our students to believe and understand. We're not as a school district trying to guide children's thinking. We're trying to expand their ability to critically think, utilizing where they are geographically in their community and how things have impacted their personal lives or their families. And so that's in a nutshell. I'm going to pass it over to the All-Star.
I don't know about All-Star, but Dr. Simpson, you're exactly correct. And one way it can be scary for teachers, right, to bring some of these headlines into the classroom, but with leadership like Dr. Beasley and Dr. Simpson, they really promote those types of conversations in the classroom. And so a part of the social studies curriculum, we have a section called Taking Informed Action. So basically, you've learned all of this great history and all of this information. Now do something about it. Do something with it. And so to help our teachers with having those difficult conversations, we've also come up with a discussing controversial issues guidelines strategy that we've shared with our teachers to say, hey, it's okay. These students are being inundated with all of this information. It's okay to talk about it, to bring it into the classroom. However, we do it in a way that's non-biased, and we allow our students to seek their own truth about these issues. And we've done that through, like I said, our curriculum. My lead teacher, Rhonda Love, she heads the Secretary of State Student Ambassador Program, which is all about being civically engaged. We also have our civic engagement diploma seals, which really promote students to get out in their community first and address a lot of these social justice issues head on now that you've been educated. So it's all about taking the fear away from our teachers and saying, hey, it's okay to discuss some of these controversial issues in the classroom. And here is the support from the social studies department to do that.
Man, that's fantastic. All right, I'm up to trivia question number 3. We are slowly wrapping this thing up. Trivia question number 3. In March of 2017, the New York Times reported Trump's new travel ban blocks migrants from 6 nations sparring Iraq. Name one of the 6 countries whose citizens were blocked from entering the United States under President Trump's executive order. All right. Now, as we we're going to wrap up now. And as we wrap up, I want to hear a closing remark from the Solicitor General. Then I'm going to hear a closing remark from Dr. Simpson. Then we'll get our 4th trivia question. And then I think we have a special guest that's going to talk to us about voting. Solicitor General, the floor is yours.
Well, let me say first, thank you for this opportunity to engage with county students. My first passion, my first career was in education. And so this is a welcome reprieve to have the opportunity to come back and talk to the students. Because again, I believe in history alive and social interaction and social consciousness as it relates to social studies. So let me close out in this way. Dr. Simpson said something that was very impactful and very true as it relates to the conversation about social justice. Social justice is really a conversation about what's happening locally in your community, what's happening in your school, what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening in your county, what's happening in your region. And if you keep that in mind as you think about social justice and how you can improve your community, how you can improve the way the community looks, how you can improve the way people interact with one another in community, how the criminal justice system interact with the citizens, then that is the starting point for making an impact in social justice.
Fantastic.
I want to also, if I can take a point of liberty, I want to also give my chief assistant the opportunity to address the students and just give her view as it relates to how criminal justice system is not a hindrance to our community, but in essence, an aid.
Fantastic. Let's hear from her.
Hi, thank you, Solicitor Brooks. I feel a little put on the spot. Before I begin, I just want to shout out Kayla Gaines. I was excited to see her. I coach mock trial at Morrow High School.
Good deal.
My students, so I was excited to see her answer that question. The criminal justice system, kind of tying in everything that everyone said. My experience, like Mr. Brooks said, is I practiced somewhere else and I came here in Clayton County, but my initial start was as a defense attorney here in Clayton County. Mm-hmm. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of see it both ways. I've been in the position where you are kind of standing between the state and an individual, and then now I am that person that represents the state. It's just very important in the criminal justice system, and so that we are helping the community and not hindering the community. It's just being a part of the community. So things like this, volunteer efforts, our own personal experiences, so that you don't lose touch, the actors of the criminal justice system don't lose touch with the human aspect of the criminal justice system. In terms of being a prosecutor, you have to be willing to make the tough decisions. They are sometimes not popular, but you have to be willing to do it. I think part of our oath is without fear, affection, or favor, and really taking that seriously. Even when the pressure is on, but not being afraid to kind of step outside the box and think about the completeness of the situation. I used to say all the time, when I was a team leader in a DA's office, where the evidence may have been shaky, a strong null process better than a weak plea.
And that's a dismissal.
And that's a dismissal, I'm sorry. Dismissal. And I would say that because if my goal is to deter crime and help the community, right?
Right.
And I am right about this person, that they did this, they will be back. And when they come back, I will have the stronger case to do what I need to do to keep the community safe. And if I am right about this person, but going through the criminal justice process has scared them so, right, that they won't come back, even though they didn't get the punishment, then I've done my job as well. Because my job, again, is to deter crime, protect the community. And then if I'm wrong, again, that's exactly what we want to do. So it's not necessarily a loss. So I think making sure you take yourself out of it, you're focused on the community, as Mr. Brooks alluded to, takes an extreme amount of restraint to take the ego and the personal out of it, and just really make sure you're meeting each situation with the best possible judgment that you can have. And I think when people come to the table really wanting to help the community and being community driven, that's what makes that's what keeps the criminal justice system from being used to hurt people. Because you can do what you need to do to protect the community, but then you're also being mindful of the fact that you're watching out for people's rights in the process, and that you are being the best part of the criminal justice system.
Man, that's awesome. I gotta say this. This forum is blowing my mind. I can't believe how we've gotten together and we've provided, our children with information that they've been starving for. I gotta thank your office, Solicitor Brooks. I gotta be honest. Throughout my entire school career, I've never had a DA or a Solicitor General tell me their perspective on the criminal justice system. So, I applaud you for bringing up this idea and making this happen. I want, for all the kids that are out there right now, I'm looking at the comments that are flashing on the screen, and you guys are really feeling this thing. You guys are really enjoying this. I want to tell you, we're going to be doing a lot more of this. I have 8 different colleagues, and I believe this is the start of what my 8 colleagues are going to be doing with our students. Clayton County, is Clayton County Public Schools is the true epitome of working for our children. We build this system from the children up, not from the leadership down. We build it from the children up. And I think my colleagues, and I've seen quite a few of them on this platform today, they're all feeling this format. And the Solicitor General has started a trend that I think you're going to see a lot more of, for the rest of the year. Before I get to Dr. Simpson closing and getting to the voting presentation, I have to do a double shout out to Regina Wallace, because everything that we're hearing is what she lives. She doesn't shout this out. You children are here now because she thought it is extremely important to get all of you together to make sure that we have forums like this. So this is great, and this will be the model. I'm sure Dr. Simpson will close out with that. This is going to be that model that all 9 of us school board members and the district will start using, bringing people from different agencies in here to talk to the kids, not us talking to them, but to talk to our children about how these agencies affect their lives. With that said, Dr. Simpson, I'm going to let you close out, and then we'll get to the voting.
Yes,
before
sir.
You start, one thing, before you start, I have a winner for the third trivia question, and that person is Kendall Walker from Jonesboro High School. So your $25 is on the way. All right, Dr. Simpson, take it away.
Yeah, Mr. Straker, Mr. Roberts, I think what that you have created, Mr. Brooks, I'm sorry, you have created good trouble, to include Ms. Wallace as well. We've created good trouble. And looking at the number of questions that we've not been able to entertain, that tells me that we're leaving something behind. That also tells me that it's important that we use this as a springboard for future meetings, and use this as a resource and a forum for continue to hear the voices of and the hearts of our children. And so without a doubt, for those students that are continually asking the questions, just stay tuned. This is not the last time that you will have such an opportunity to be able to dialogue about things that are so important and meaningful to you, whether it's social justice, whether it's just the everyday experience of being a teenager and a student during and in this pandemic. We want to provide the forum for you to be able to express your voice, and for us to be able to provide you with some nuggets so that we can help for you to navigate through whatever challenges it is that you might be experiencing. So that is our responsibility. And we take that responsibility, and I have a quote that speaks to that responsibility. It is the responsibility of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of its unconscious behavior. I'm going to say that one more time. It is the responsibility of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of its unconscious behavior. And I'm going to break that down for those who didn't get it. It is a responsibility for those that know to help those that don't know realize that they don't even know. So for those that don't know what social justice is and what it means, for those that don't have an understanding of where it is that they're supposed to fit in, for those that don't know what all of this is about and how it's going to impact their lives, not only as students, but as they venture off into college, the workforce, the military, and how to play an active role in their society. It's our responsibility to teach you. And that is the responsibility that we uphold, that we take full granted for, and we will provide that forum for you. So I can't thank you enough, Solicitor General Brooks, Mr. Straker, Ms. Wallace, and your creativeness and your wisdom at engaging and involving our students. Stay tuned, because this is part 1. This is volume 1. But volume 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is coming. And stay tuned for it. And I want to, again, express my appreciation for all of those who were involved. And thanks to the tremendous Board of Education, our chairperson, and our illustrious leader, Superintendent Dr. Morsees J. Beasley. You all have a great day, and thanks for being a part of it.
Good deal. Solicitor Brooks, I know we got another segment because the guy wants to talk about voting. If you could just hang on for like 10 more minutes, because we have to talk about something. We've had a trivia contest that has given 4 people $25. The ironic thing is that this whole forum started from Solicitor Brooks wanting to have artwork from our students. He's going to talk about that contest as soon as we're finished talking about voting. So if you could just give me 10 minutes more of your time, Solicitor, because I want you to talk about that art contest.
Not a problem.
Good deal. Regina, can you introduce the next guest?
Sure. So now that we've been enlightened with all of this information, it's time to do something with it and let our voices be heard. So we have Mr. Samuel Blackwood. I'm going to ask him to go ahead and share his screen so that we can get you all registered to vote. He's with When We All Vote. I know you've heard of that organization being promoted from Michelle Obama and a lot of different other celebrities and political activists. And so he's going to take us through a very quick voter registration process. So Mr. Blackwood, I'm going to turn it over to you so that we can get our kids registered to vote in this upcoming election.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace, and thank you for all of the wonderful panelists who just spoke. I'm honestly blown away by everything that you had to say in the forum that you all have created here.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but that last trivia question is coming right after this. So students, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We're going to ask that last trivia question as soon as we get you registered to vote. Yep. All right, Mr. Blackwood, go ahead.
Yeah, so you all have heard about social justice. You've heard about criminal justice, social justice education in your schools. You've even heard a little bit about how you yourselves can take justice into your own hands. But the easiest and most powerful way that you can take justice into your own hands is by voting. And so I want you guys to get off the couch, go grab your IDs, get out of bed, go grab your IDs, get off the toilet if you're on the toilet, and go grab your identifications, your social security cards, and come back to your computers because you're going to need those in order to register to vote. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go out and do that. And then I'm going to play a voter registration video. I'm going to warn you all, it's 6 minutes and 30 seconds long. It is not the most exciting video in the world, but it is 6 minutes and 30 seconds out of your life that will allow you to exercise your voice for the rest of your life. So I just need you all to get up, go grab your IDs, have your social security cards ready, all of that stuff. And I'm going to walk you through the voter registration process, and I'll give you guys about 60 seconds or 2 minutes to do that. Go out and run and go do that right now for me. And I'll set up the video while they're doing that. Okay. All right. So I will just set up the video and I am going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Ms. Wallace, can you see my screen?
I believe we are good to go.
It's okay. Yep. It says everyone can see and hear you. All right. I'm going to start playing this video. What this video is going to do is walk you through the registration process. So you all should have had a link, voter registration link that is dropped in the chat. If you could go ahead and click on that link, that is going to take you to the opening page for so you can start this process.
Virginia, you see the video?
I was just calling to see if you can see it.
Can you see the video? I'm gonna start playing the video right now.
Don't wait until you're older to make an impact in your society. You can do it right now by registering yourself and your peers. And when the time comes, you can vote for the change that you want to see.
Hello, my name is Zach, and today I'm going to take you through the process of voter registration and pre-registration. complete this process, you will need the last 4 digits of your social security number and a current Georgia state identification card or driver's license. You will also need to be at least 17 and a half years old and a U.S. citizen. If you're in an in-person classroom, please raise your hand if you intend on completing this process with us. If you're in a virtual classroom, if you can't complete this
We can skip ahead.
All right, so if you'll be completing this process with us, please put your email address and zip code down on the form. If you're in person, look up when you're finished, and if you're on an online platform, please drop a done in the chat box so we know when to move on. You should all be finished and should have pressed next step. You will arrive at a page that says register yourself to vote at the top. So go ahead and put down your name, indicate that you're a U.S. citizen if you are, and put down your home address. Indicate that you do have a current Georgia.
Okay, y'all, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties with sharing the video. So what I'm gonna do is just walk you all through the process. And so you should have opened up, once you've clicked on the link, you should have opened up to a screen that is gonna ask you to input your email and your zip code. So I'm gonna need you guys to just input your email and your zip code. And then you're gonna click next step. Once you've clicked next step, you're going to be taken to a page that is going to ask for your first name, your last name, your suffix if you have one, and a title. You'll also be asked to say that you're a U.S. citizen, which I assume quite a few of you are. You'll also be asked for your home address, which will include your street address, city, state, and zip code. And so you'll just need to fill all of that out. Once you've done that, you're going to be taken to the Georgia Secretary of State's voter registration website. And what you should see is a banner that says online voter registration from Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. And welcome to the state of Georgia online voter registration system. What you're going to do once you reach that page, it's going to give you 2 options. Am I registered to vote? And I want to register to vote. You're going to click on I want to register to vote. For those of you who feel like you've registered in the past and have gone through this process, you're more than welcome to click on the other one. And the process is pretty straightforward from there. But I'm going to continue along with those who are seeking to register for the first time. So once you've clicked I want to register to vote, you're going to be taken to another page. There's a lot of words on this page. And the most important part of this is you're going to want to click register to vote online using valid Georgia driver's license /ID number /change voter information. But what you'll be doing is registering to vote using your valid Georgia driver's license. Once you've pressed that, you'll be taken to a page that is going to ask you to indicate whether or not you fulfill the minimum requirements that you need in order to register to vote. Are you a citizen? Are you a legal resident of the country? Are you at least 17 and a half years old? Are you not serving a sentence for conviction of a felony involving moral turpitude? And have you not been found mentally incompetent by a judge? Once you've clicked all of those boxes, you can then press begin voter registration. Okay. Step 2, registering to vote. So you are going to click type of change, and you're going to be a new voter registration, as most of you are. You're going to select the county of your residence, which is Clayton, input your personal information, your first name and last name, as well as, and this is one of the most important parts, your date of birth and your Georgia driver's license, and ID numbers. That's what you need in order to complete this registration process. So make sure that you input that information correctly. And then you can go ahead and click next.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Blackwood, for taking us through the voter registration process. We'll turn it over to Mr. Straker to get that last trivia question and to announce the art competition that's taking place.
You got it. First of all, let me, I think Mr. Blackman went over this already, but voter registration deadline is December 7th. So that's next week. You have to fulfill that process that Mr. Blackman went over by next week, December 7th. Early voting begins December 14th. So that means you can actually go in and you can vote starting December 14th. If you miss the early voting after December 14th, election day, the runoff election day will be January 5th. So just in case, I don't want anybody missing the early voting. So the early voting starts December 14th. Get in there on that day and get it done. But in the event something comes up and you're not able to get to the early voting days, which is going to be the 14th, Ms. Wallace, when's the last day of early voting? You're on mute. All right. Well, get in there. If you miss the early voting, make sure you get there on election day, which is January 5th. Now, before I do that last trivia question, I'm going to pass it over to Solicitor Brooks. He has an exciting contest that you will be able to participate. It's the 21st, December 21st. So it's December 14th to December 21st is early voting. If you happen to miss early voting on December 21st, you can get in there on January 5th. That'll be your absolute last day to vote. Solicitor General, take it away with the art contest and let them know what that's going to be all about.
So before I do that, let me say first thank you to yourself, Mr. Straker, Ms. Wallace, as well as Ms. Carter and Dr. Simpson for making this all possible. The opportunity to speak to students and the opportunity that students have to engage with folks like yourself and other community leaders is one that's invaluable. And it will be a shame for a student's first interaction with my office to be in the courtroom. So thank you for the opportunity for us to talk even before something like that were ever to happen. This forum was born from a conversation that I had with member Straker regarding art, social justice art. In my office, we have an office of roughly about 40 some odd people. And in our office, we have core values, and those core values are integrity, community, fairness, and competence. And those things are the pillars that our office stands upon. And if you marry each one of those to one another, it gives you what we believe is justice. And so as it relates to social justice art, I wanted each one of my prosecutors and everybody that works in my office and under my tenure to understand that this is an office about community. This is an office about integrity. This is an office about fairness. And this is an office about confidence. And every image that we have on the wall, I wanted it to remind them of that's what we stand for. And so I wanted to engage students of Clayton County, having seen some art at Stillwell, seen some art at Mount Zion and Morrow, and all the various schools throughout the county. I wanted to engage the students and ask them to create art for my office, create reminders for my office, for the folks who work for me and work for you, to remind them that this office is about the community. So what does community look like? What does social justice look like? What does fairness look like? What does integrity look like? What does competence look like? And with those and with the winners of the competition, it's my intent that as long as I'm Solicitor General, that'll be hung in our office as a constant reminder, as long as I'm here, and hopefully beyond.
Good deal. All right, so we'll get the details of that contest over to each and every one of you. And I want everybody to participate in there, even if you're half an artist. Just, submit your work. And hopefully, if you win, it'll get displayed in the Solicitor General's office. All right, now for that last trivia question. This one is a good one, and I'm going to hang out on the platform until I get the answer to this. And I'm really going to look at this answer and see how creative you can get. In response to the George Floyd incident, many rappers created songs that address America's social unrest. Name a song that address the current social environment and what we are experiencing today in the United States. Also, let us know the lyric line that stands out to you and describe what you believe the rapper's perspective was. So what you need to do is, first and foremost, give me a rapper that has talked about social justice. And then I want a line from that song that stands out to you. All right, go. I am waiting for the winner of the 4th trivia prize. I wish we had some music to play.
And they're monitoring the Zoom chat box to see.
Okay. I think I know one song that somebody's going to say.
And just a reminder, early voting actually, I just got a text, it actually ends on January 1st. So we got a little bit more time.
Okay.
But we do want to urge you guys to be December voters. Okay, looks like we have a winner coming in. Let me see what school.
The last winner for today is
all right, they're finding out the school for me. Looks, oh. Okay. All right, I got it in the chat box for you, Mr. Straker.
All right, here we go. We got Deja Patman. Deja Patman from Jonesboro High School. Congratulations. And I knew it was going to be Little Baby. Everybody picks Little Baby. That song is like the movement song of 2020. Very good. Bigger than, oh my goodness, that's my line. Bigger than Black and White. Bigger than Black and White. So Little Baby, Bigger than Black and White. Deja Patman is the winner. Thank you everybody for coming. Look forward, my colleagues and I look forward to other events like this. Have a great day.